You are now listening to the smooth sounds of Love Atiya. Ciao, beautiful souls. My name's Atiya, and I am your future bestie in your head. I am a sex-positive animal activist. I grew up in Queens, New York, and was homeschooled/unschooled for about 12 years. I was a virgin until I was 24 and attempted to have a hoe phase for 2 years, which eventually led me to being accidentally/intentionally celibate. And here we are today. My past left me with a lot of wild stories, a lot of lessons, and a hell of a lot of trauma. Thank God for my wicked sense of humor, because God only knows I would have perished by now. With that being said, this is your gentle reminder that the Love Atiya experience was created as a safe space for me to reflect and share the lessons that I've learned from past traumas. Shit gets real on this podcast, and topics such as domestic violence, sexual assault, substance abuse, depression, anxiety, and suicide may be referenced. If you are working through feeling triggered by certain topics, this may not be the show for you right now, and that's okay. Healing takes time and isn't linear. I'll be here when you're ready. Now, without further ado, the Love Atiya experience is an experience. So get ready for laughs, crazy story times, and life-changing pleasure tips here on the Love Atiya Experience podcast.
But I was fully present. I didn't allow myself to be self-sabotage it. And every time I look through these pictures, I smile.
Oh.
Or like when I'm looking at old pictures of like people who I might have talked to in the past, I still smile. Not because it's like, oh man, like we could have been, or I wish. Nah, it's just more so in the sense of like, yo, I remember being genuinely happy and joyful in these moments with you. And I think that's what I'm trying to learn for love for myself. Is like, not the fear it's not gonna happen, but the freedom of like, yo, you're just in this moment and you're enjoying it. And it's not love bombing. It's an authentic feeling, and it's true to the timing, and it's true to the moment of how they made you feel and how you make them feel, and it's all good. And yeah, it might not have worked out, but like in that moment, it felt really great. Granted, that means when it goes wrong, you got to sit in that too. And I think that's something we all struggle with, is like sitting in that, like, damn, like, y'all, my heart hurt right now. Like, damn, like this ain't, damn, dang, I ain't never doing this again. But always reminding yourself or believing beyond the trust that you might have for yourself to get it, like wrap it up back to trust. Sometimes you gotta believe in the bigger picture of love. And I think that's the one thing that keeps me going, because people are like, bro, yo, you do this Thanksgiving every year. Like you show up for all these people, you pour into all these people. Like, bro, you've never been single? Like, or you never been in a relationship? How do you keep doing that? And I think it's just my belief in love. Like, love is such a powerful thing. And it's the thing that keeps the world going and keeps people happy and smiling and feeling as if they belong and they're heard and they're understood and they're valued. And that's what I want to align my life with. So I'm going to continue to believe in that, because if I don't believe in that, then everything that's left gives me no purpose to live. And I believe at the core of everything that I am here on this purpose, on this earth, for a reason and for a purpose. So it's like I gotta believe in the beauty of everything, because there's already so much darkness. You know what I mean? And I think, especially when we talk about relationships, for people who are like, man, I am hopeless. Like, you're not, because you're only focusing again on the people who you want to love you. But if you focus on the love that's already there, sure, it might not be romantic love. Sure, you might be at the crib by yourself and lonely. Sure, you might be like, dang, should I call this toxic person who I don't want to talk to? No, you shouldn't. Hang up, sit in that loneliness. But when you focus on the love that you actually have in your life, whether it's with your friends, your family, for yourself, maybe it's your love of your favorite TV show, maybe it's your favorite food, whatever it is. Like, there's so much love in our lives to help us carry us through until we find that person for ourselves. And that's what I believe in. I might be naive, I might be a hopeless romantic, but either way, it keeps me going. So I find peace in knowing that, like, that love that I so desperately give to everybody to make them feel like they belong on this earth, that love is on its way to me. And until it comes there, and until I could give it a big ass hug and we could build a beautiful ass family, until there, I just gotta be patient. And that's like, it's crazy to say, but that's the only thing that be keeping me through those lonely nights of like, damn, like, oh man, I'm really by myself. I'm going to the family cookouts and they asking like, damn, you still single? Yes, bro. Oh, I'm
So
sick.
single, I'm
But
weak.
in the yeah, but in the back of my mind, it's like, yeah, I am now, but just wait until I pull up my person. You gonna be annoyed because
Yeah.
I'm doing all the lovey shit for sure. You know what I mean? So I think like for anybody who's struggling, you just really, especially if you don't believe in or you don't trust yourself, with discernment or finding a person or building it, yeah, just believe in love at the end of the day, because that is the thing that really like genuine, authentic, healthy love. It is out there. You can look on TikTok, you could walk down the street and you could see a romantic couple. Like, don't run away from what you see. I understand. Every time I see somebody who's in love, I don't look at them like, damn, that make me sick. I look at them, I'm like, yo, I love that. Yo, I can't wait till it comes my way. I think like once you change your mentality in that, it's not gonna make it easier, but it's gonna bring you a certain level of peace because you have this understanding that it's coming your way.
Damn. Damn. That shit is so deep. Like you just literally like embedded so much hope in my heart because I took the focus off of love. Like I became such a love pessimist. Like I would see the couple on the street and be like, I know they'd be fighting when they get home because that's how me and my ex used to. So
Hmm.
you know why? Because I feel like I too was a person that was like looking on TikTok and saw the couples and was like, oh yeah, like I want to be that. Or like looking on YouTube and like watching the couples channel. So then when I finally got the relationship, I thought about the analogy. It's like eating apples, right? And you eat one
Hmm.
fucking apple and it has a razor blade in it. And you're like, I'm never fucking eating apples again. Like that's how I feel like I've looked at relationships. It's like I had one
Yeah,
very first relationship, you know what I'm saying? And he had a razor blade in him. Like so I
yeah. But
yeah,
to your point though, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I
yeah.
think the one thing that we do, there's two things that I feel like is the greatest disservice to love that we do. One is we tell people, well, when you're not looking for it, it'll find you. So stop looking, right? That's number one. And
Yeah.
then two is we tell people, well, in this time, just love yourself,
Yeah.
right? And the reason why I say that's such a disservice and why that pours so much into the mystic of it all is that one, when you tell people to stop looking and oh, it'll just find you, it removes the element that no matter what, when there's a relationship, there's work. Even if you're like finding somebody, it takes work to find somebody because you still got to vet them. You still have to have discernment. You still have to make sure they're good for you. And does their energy match? And do they hit your requirements? And do they raise the bar? When we just keep it as simple as like, oh, they'll find you, then it makes us open to receiving anything that comes our way. No matter, even when you have a relationship, to your point, regardless if you've been together for 40 years, 2 years, 1 month, whatever, it's still work in making it happen. But the beauty of it is like when you find that right person, even in the moments when they're walking down the street and you're like, oh man, they definitely arguing. Yeah. In that moment, they might not even like each other, but they
Mm-hmm.
still love each other and they might still be trying to make it work. And that's something that you don't find. You have to build that. So I think like when we just tell people like, oh yeah, you're gonna find it, like, no, there's still work in finding, there's still work in building.
Yeah.
And then two, and most importantly, when we tell people like, oh yeah, well, you don't have anybody right now, just love yourself. I think we miss out on this factor that the human experience is not meant to be alone. Communal love is so important. And if you don't have the necessarily people around you to love on you, then how you love yourself is drastically changed because we don't fully know how to love ourselves until we also understand how other people should love us. So I
Mm-hmm.
think like with that being said, it's like people are lonely. When people are lonely, those are the moments when your support and your community is supposed to love on you.
Yeah.
If you don't have people loving on you, it makes you feel even more alone. So yeah, I can love myself, but damn, even though I love myself, I still feel like there's something wrong with me because nobody else loves me. As somebody who has been abandoned, who's
Mm.
felt alone by friends, yeah, I love myself. I'm sitting here in my loneliness and it's cool and whatever, but there's still a void in my heart because
Mm.
it's like, damn, why can't anybody else love me? Why do I yeah, I see this in myself, but what's wrong? There still must be something wrong with me. And I
Mm.
think we got to understand that it's like, one, love regardless. Even the love that I talked about, and people might sit back and be like, yo, you're romanticizing love. Nah, I see love, but I
Yeah.
also understand that comes with work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, because it comes with work, the work isn't just on myself, it's also on somebody else too. So it's like it's this two-sided kind of model of work that you got to put in. And I think the problem with like social media and TikTok and all that, granted, these are good sources when you're in a healthy place to look at and be like, oh, I don't want this exact relationship, but there's elements of this that I would love to take
Yeah.
and add to my toolbox of love. But I think sometimes we over romanticize all of it and we forget that in order to get to that place, it takes work. It
Yeah.
takes really building, and it also takes being able to like have other people love you. And I think a lot of us, and I'll speak for myself, I've been for the longest I was closed off to love. I
Mm.
was romanticizing what I wanted, but if that thing came to me, I would have absolutely curbed it. I'm like, nah, I don't want you because that I didn't allow myself open to the communal love to learn that like, oh wow. I tell you, I have a friend, shout out to Aaliyah, the greatest thing she's ever said. Not the Aaliyah that we did the podcast with, a
Okay.
different
I'm like,
Aaliyah.
oh
Shout
yeah.
out to all the
That's all the
yeah,
leaves in
shout
the
out to
world.
all the Aaliyahs in the world. Um, I remember one time I was like frustrated, like really mad at myself. And she said something and she was like, Nigel, you're so great. You don't even see it. Until
Mm.
you see it, we're here to remind you of how great you are. And that hit because it was like, damn, if I didn't have a community of people who didn't help me see outside myself at my lowest moments, who knows where I would have ended up in this life or where I would have where I would have ended up.
Mhm.
But because there were so many people who like I wanted to give up, I wanted to quit, I wanted to walk away, but they loved me. It helped me reach my full capacity and my full potential to know and understand what love is. If I didn't have that, who it is, and in those moments, I felt like I love myself to the max. And they're showing me like, no, there's so much more to where you can love yourself. And I think I feel like we do such a disservice of love because it's always this like crazy romanticizing. And to your point, like, yeah, you see that couple and they might be arguing, but even in that arguing, that doesn't necessarily mean it's toxic, but it doesn't mean it's healthy. There's so much more to it, but we got to build that for ourselves and have the discernment to understand. And the only way to have that understanding is through the love in which we already accept in our lives. Which a
Yeah.
lot of us, if we're being honest, and we just talked about how I don't think we're deserving of community. We know we're deserving, but we like, I don't think we're deserving. But how much of us are like actually closed off to love, not just romantic love?
Yeah.
We focus on romantic love, but when we think of family, when we think of friends, when we think of ourselves, our habits, the ways we eat, how closed off we are to love. And then it really becomes the question of like, what is love? What is the love that we think that we want? Is that really the healthiest love for us?
Damn. That part. What's that quote? You are the love you think you deserve. I think that's the
Yeah.
quote. Perks of being a wildflower. Yeah. That's deep as shit. I have so many mixed feelings about that, right? Because I feel like one, when I was depressed and people would be like, just be happy. Like it made me have a really adverse effect or adverse feeling towards the word just because it's never a fucking just. So like when you mentioned like when people are like, oh, just pour into yourself, just love yourself some more. It's like I would fucking do that if I could. There's no just about me. So I feel that 1,000%. And I see both sides, right? Because I see like in past dating experiences, I felt like my parents really poured into me different phases of my life, right? But I feel like self-love has always been a thing that I've been trying to like perfect, if that makes sense, and really love. I mean, and really grasp, if that makes sense, because I really did struggle with self-love and self-criticism. I still to this day struggle with self-criticism and self-judgment, but I think self-love, like I'm really like raising the bar. But I'm trying to think like what really helped me love myself to get out of situations where I wasn't receiving the love I wanted. And I'm like, was it my peers? No, because I had like kind of cut off my peers at that point when I was in the relationship, or even when I'm dating just in general. I guess it's circumstantial, right? Because there was one situation I was in where like my friend was like, "Oh no, this isn't healthy. Like this is not, you know what I'm saying? Like this isn't okay." And
Mhm.
I was able to see like, "Oh yeah, like whoa," like they were able to put a word to it. And it's like, "Oh yeah, that wasn't okay." But I'm like, what came first, the self love or like the positive relationship? Because I have
Yeah,
had that.
I think it's not a either or, it's a both and, right?
Oh,
I think like so much of what we do is like we think of things in a bucket. Like it's either this or it's either that. And I don't think it's one or the other. It's both and. It's both
mhm,
the self-love and the communal love that helps us understand what we deserve. And I think for better or for worse, you know what I mean? Like you can see for example, like I've had friends who would be like, "Oh, just put up with it."
mm.
But then my self-love would trump and be like, "Oh, you tripping? Like I ain't settling for that."
Yeah.
Right? And there's other times where like my self-love is like, "Oh no, that's enough." And then my peers or my friends or whoever would be like, "Nah, that's the bare." You know what I mean? So I don't think it's
Mhm,
ever like either or. I think it all works together, almost in like a spectrum of
mhm,
like the ways in which we like learn how to love and how to appreciate. It's like our environment. It's like a baby, right? When you're a baby, you don't know how to love.
mhm,
You're just loved. People teach you how to love. People show you by the ways in which they love you until you get to a place where you develop it. So you lean, you're dependent on like communal love or how your environment loves you or your parents or whoever is taking care, your primary caregiver is taking care of you until you get a place where you make that choice for yourself of how you want to love. And
mhm.
then how you navigate the world, all these other factors influence it. And I think that's the same way with like how we love today. But at the end of the day, like the core of it is there's all these different elements pouring into the bucket that makes us recognize or not recognize or appreciate or not appreciate
Mhm.
how we are. But especially like when we get to this like pessimistic aspect of it, I think sometimes we gotta we're looking from a small view and we gotta like open up our eyes to like the vastness and the grandness of it. And a lot of that is taking away our pride and taking away our shame. Because I think at the end of the day, like shame is the cause of why a lot of people don't even love themselves. We're
Yes.
so shameful. We feel so much guilt that it's like it can never be me, or regret, or a lack of worthiness, or all the trauma in that we face builds this shame, and it's like, oh no, it's not even. I don't deserve this. I had a friend. I promise you, she has the most beautiful soul on the planet, like an angel in human form, who believes that she deserves the bare minimum because all her past relationships were terrible,
Mhm.
right? And it's like, just because we experience something that's so terrible doesn't mean we're deserving of it.
True. Very true.
Like it's terrible that we're in it, but it doesn't mean we're deserving of it. And you could push past that and look for what you really deserve or what you want. But if you're not exposed to it, if you don't know it's real, if you don't know it's tangible, if you don't see it, how do you believe?
Mhm.
And again, like faith and belief, all of that is built on like the idea of not knowing the true answer, but just having the believing that it can happen. But it's hard to if you don't have people who are showing you or teaching you or molding you. So it's like I don't even know how we got into long tangents of love, but I think what I'm realizing for myself at least is that no matter how bad it gets, there's something better out there. The
Mhm.
minute like I think sometimes when I attach myself to somebody, because in my mind it's like this is as good as it gets. She
Mhm.
treated me the absolute best that anybody's ever treated me. Nobody will ever treat me this way. And then when I have to remind myself, like, bro, this is not as good as it gets. There's always can be something better. Now you can choose to accept this and let this be as good as it gets, or you can choose to go for more, demand more, or look for more. But I think we put ourselves in these boxes and buckets when it's like there's so much more for us. And there's always like, in my mind, there's always hope. There's 7 billion people on this planet. 7 billion.
Yeah.
I remember I read the statistic of 99% of people think you're unattractive. There's still at least, I'm not a math major, don't quote me on this, but there's still at least like 700 million people who still find you attractive. Like there is hope out there. But it's like, do you believe that what you're going through is only as good as it gets? And for me, maybe it's the dreamer in me, maybe it's the person who's like, yo, I believe in endless possibilities in this life. I'm always believing like, nah, it could definitely be better. Like, oh man, this didn't work out. Damn, she really taught me all these things.
Mhm.
Wow, she made me feel so safe. I ain't never felt like this. I'll never meet somebody like her. And it's like, nah, wait, that's if one person can do it,
Mhm.
multiple people could do that too. So like it's to the people who are like starting to lose hope, just remember like it can always somebody will take that ceiling and make it their floor and then show you there's so much more out there.
Yeah. Somebody with me take your ceiling and make it their floor. Did I say it right? That
Hmm.
shit. Jesus, I had to visualize it. Like that shit is so deep. So if you okay, say that we're on your talk show and someone
Hmm.
doesn't have the community that we're really blessed to have, um, what would your advice be for someone who's trying to pour into themselves with love so that they are quote unquote ready or able to accept love when it is finally coming into their life, or so they're able to see love when it's in their lives? So they're not able to have the community to show them that necessarily.
I would say depending on like resources and financial, first and foremost, therapy. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like you have to I think there's so much value in talking to a professional and somebody who can help you unpack the way that you feel and can help you really see those roadblocks that are stopping you from seeing community. Now, if that's not an option, I think it really takes it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. I think when we think about building community, it's an overnight process because we're in this like microwave generation. We want everything to happen overnight. I would tell them to like you got to put yourself in positions to meet people in
Mm-hmm.
the safest way possible, right? So like if you're interested in, let's say, painting,
Mm-hmm.
how do you find like a local painting club, right? And then you go to that for a couple times. I think the problem I find with people, not just even college students, because I work with college students a lot, but people in general, it's like we go to one event, we walk in, nobody talks to us, we feel absolutely alone because we're already walking in. We don't even recognize how vulnerable we are just walking in and going by ourselves. So we go into this space, nobody talks to us. We walk out of it and we say, I will never find anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage people to stop looking at what's in the first step. And in those moments, think of the bigger picture of like, it's consistency. It's continuously showing up and going and yeah, the first day you don't talk to somebody. Maybe the second day you say hi. Maybe the third day you say, "Hey, what's up?" Maybe the fourth day, "Hey, what's up, Jim?" Maybe you know what I mean. Like it's the more you do it, the more you get comfortable. But I think the ultimate thing beyond like consistently showing up is affirming yourself and letting yourself know that you're deserving of it. Because I can't tell you how many spaces I walked into going into it and it wasn't even like it was a bad space. It wasn't like people didn't care. It wasn't even that like there were bad people in the room. But because I felt like I wasn't deserving of it, my the way I viewed the whole room was automatically like, this person doesn't like me. They're not gonna like me. They're looking at me crazy. You know what I mean? So you gotta go into things like, yo, I'm deserving. I'm gonna take up space. I belong here. I deserve to be here. And then give yourself grace
Yes.
too, because I think we have this expectation of like, if I meet you on the first day, I want to attach myself to you. You're my best friend. And it's like, yeah, but that's not how it always works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you want to build connections. You don't want to build attachments.
Yes.
So put yourself out there. Don't limit yourself to one person. That one person might help you meet five more people. And then
Yeah.
you find out that person is not your person. And then you meet five more people. You know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, you gotta let go of this like idea of failure. You have to like run towards this fear of rejection. You have to run towards all the things that are scaring you because
Mhm.
the joy that is intended for you is on the opposite side of all the fear. It's on the opposite side of the lack of feeling like you're worthy and deserving. It's on the opposite side of all the things that you think could go wrong. All that joy that's intended for you, all that connection, all that community, all that love is on the absolute opposite side. And the only way to cross that bridge is being okay with being vulnerable. And I think the problem with for a lot of us, we're scared of being vulnerable. Terrified. I gave you my heart. You took my heart and you used it against me. My heart is hurting. I don't like feeling like this. And it's like, yeah, I understand. And you're gonna have to heal from that too. But this is where therapy helps, because the more tools you have, the more you're equipped to deal with that hurt and that pain, the easier it is for you to heal and put yourself back out. It's like, yo, I'm not gonna lie. Black women, I love y'all. I love y'all to the bottom of my heart. Like, y'all are the greatest thing since sliced bread in my eyes. Y'all be hurting my heart though, all the time. But still, I love y'all because I understand that even through this hurt, I am so much more equipped that I'm gonna find somebody and it's like, yeah, it's gonna work out. And then she hurt my heart, and I'm like, damn.
Not again.
But then I'll be like, again. But then I'll be like, oh wait, there's so many more. Like, oh my God, like I'm good. You know what I mean? So you just gotta heal too. Like, give yourself the time and space. And a lot of us can't even heal because we don't even want to accept that we're broken or we're hurt. So you got to give yourself the acknowledge it. Like, I am hurt. This girl hurt my feelings. This guy hurt my feelings. Understand it's okay. Take your time. Drink your wine. Listening to them R&B Drake songs or whoever artist you play when you sad. Get through it. You know, tie your shoes. Go back out. Do it again. And I think the more attempts you give yourself, the better you're able to find community. And I know for me, community also sometimes doesn't even like it's already around you and you don't even recognize it. So I'll give you this like quick story. When I was in college, I went to University of Kentucky and I hated it. Like I wanted to transfer, I wanted to drop out. I had this one night where I got really drunk. I had a bad week. I'm pretty sure I got curved. I was failing this math exam. It was a bad week. I was like, fuck it, I'm turning it up. Right? I got real drunk, blackout drunk, threw up everywhere, threw up on my laptop, threw up all around my room. And keep in mind, this is a point in time where I was like, yo, I'm ready to go. I feel like I don't have no friends. Like I have people who I'm around. I don't know if they're my friends. This all sucks. I hate it here. I'm ready to go. That night, I remember two of my friends called me and they were like, yo, we're on our way. We heard about what happened. We're on our way. Keep in mind, I'm throw up still there. I'm just over here like, I don't know what to do. They came with baking soda, lime slices, and orange slices. They were on the ground with orange and lime slices, scraping, like throwing baking soda, like cleaning. Right? I'm gonna be honest with you. To your point, never in my life would I ever do some shit like that for anybody. Like I would, if that happened to a friend at that conjuncture of time, and shit, sometimes even now, I'd be like, damn, bro, that's tough. You need anything? Bro, you good? You know what I mean? But I say that to say, like, people will show up for you in the most unexpected ways.
Absolutely.
And I remember I read this quote where it was like, people say I love you every day. It just doesn't always come in the form of I love you. Sometimes it's in the form of did you eat? Sometimes it's an act of service. Sometimes it's like, hey, do you need some gas? Are you good? And I think we don't always recognize it because we're accustomed to thinking community is supposed to look in this specific way. But there's so much nuance in life that sometimes you got to open your mind to like all the different ways people are showing up for you that you don't even recognize. And I think that's the one thing like college, that situation in college taught me is like, yo, you guys have been here the whole time. I just did not, I was not open to it. Then the minute I opened myself up to it, now I'm looking around, like I get to the end of the semester, I'm looking around and I'm like, dang, I can't really walk campus without knowing somebody. Like a lot of people here like know me and want me here, and you know what I mean? And I think for all of us, there's again, I can't stress enough. We have so much love in our lives and we don't even fully recognize how much love it is because we're only fixated on one person's love or love looking a certain way. The minute you let go of the idea of what love should look like is the minute you walk into loving me. I'm like, oh, whoa, this shit is crazy. So I think like for anybody struggling, you got to open yourself up. And that it takes vulnerability. It takes running into those fears. It takes building those skills to heal from pain. It takes going to therapy and learning more about yourself and deeper into your heart. But the minute you do all that, oh, I promise you, the other side is so beautiful. And it'd be like, damn, this life shit is great. Hard, but great.
But worth it. I love
Yeah, for
that.
sure.
Yeah, that gives me hope. Like that's why I love talking to you, because you literally give me hope. Like not only for humanity, but just for life. Like it just seems like a lighter existence to have hope and faith as opposed to demonize like the things that you're experiencing. Even the quote unquote bad experiences I've had, like I've tried to figure out like the beautiful lessons. Like I would not be who I am today without the jacked up Hinge dates, without the jacked up Tinder dates, without the funky relationship. Like I learned a lot from every single thing that I've been through. But I think that you're so right in the sake of, even for me, like I feel like I lost my hope, and I think I just became a pessimist. Like I created this new rule for 2024.
Yeah.
I'm trying it in January, and I'm literally trying to be so positive, like, or at least not be negative, because I feel like my negativity has only gotten me but so far in life. So what if I switch this up and try to be positive? And it started feeling really rough earlier. Because I shared this with people and they were like, oh, does that mean that we have to be positive too? And it's like, yes, like I would love to have a supportive network of positive people around me, but if I'm not able to have that, whatever, it's just a bigger thing for me to have to accomplish or like overcome. But my point is that just hearing this conversation and with you being so positive, I know that you have your moments of navigating things and maybe not on the most positive tip. Maybe you have moments where you question things or whatever the case may be, and that's normal because you're a human being. But just that for your overall positivity and your overall optimism about love and life and your goals and connections in general. Like it just helped me because I've cut myself off from a lot of connections. I think I've let people pick me, and I didn't realize how much power I had to where like the more, once again, work that I do on myself, like the more like-minded people, like you're a great showcasing of that. Like, okay, I feel like I'm doing the right thing if I met somebody like Nigel, so I'm grateful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The one thing I will say to you for everybody, because I think like positivity is a good thing, but like the culture often pushes toxic positivity.
Yes.
I think like how to be actually positive, you still have to acknowledge the bad. So like even though you went through all them Hinge dates and it was like, yeah, I learned my lesson, you also did not deserve to have to go through all of that fuck shit to learn your lesson. You know what I mean? Like those feelings that you felt where you were sad and depressed and heartbroken and all that, you did not deserve to go through any of that. And like it's important to acknowledge that, because I think the problem with positivity is like we force ourselves to be like, oh, it's all good. Everything's bright and shiny. And I would say like the one thing my friends will tell you, yes, I'm a positive person, but I acknowledge all my feelings. Like if you see my text thread when I like somebody, there's one day where I'm like, nah, I'm throwing Shorty in the gulag. I want nothing to do with her. I'm over her. The next day is like, oh, she texted me back. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm still back with her. Like I love her. You know what I mean? I want her to be the love of my life. Then the next day it's like, yo, she really don't like me. This shit is so crazy. Like, guys, I'm done with her. I'm over. And then the next day is like, nope, wait, tripping. Sorry guys. False alarm. False alarm. You know what I mean? But you have to be able to acknowledge those feelings.
Yes.
Because if you don't acknowledge it, then you're suppressing it and it's going to come out in the worst way. And I think that's why a lot of us are pessimistic in not a healthy way, but in a way that's like the whole world's about to end. Like it's terrible because I think we force positivity, and that's what toxic positivity is.
Yeah.
Like you got to be able to acknowledge the bad.
Yes.
Sure, you learn the greatest lesson from these bad, horrible dates. Just because you learned that lesson also does not take away the fact that you should have never went through these positive or these horrible dates in order to get to that lesson. Like you deserve so much more than that. And I think just allowing for anybody who's listening, giving yourself that space and that grace to like feel how you feel, but also acknowledge, yes, this sucks and I'm hurt, and I know I'm gonna be okay. But right now, in this moment, I am going to live in this pain, and I'm living. She ain't text me back. I, I'm hurt. My feelings are done. Oh my god, she just posted. Yo, she posted. Oh my god, I'm done, guys. It's over. She don't want me. She don't. You know what I mean? You gotta live in that, and it's hard
Yeah.
because like at times you be like, man, I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy, but it's like it's not that you're crazy. It's
Yeah.
that we don't. The culture does not give space to the amount of emotions that we feel towards people. It's like it's one or the other. There's no nuance, and there's so much nuance when it comes to all of our situations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please be positive, but not at the expense of your experience. Like
Yes.
recognize your experience, please.
Yes, absolutely. But don't dwell. Like I feel like I've dwelled for a really
Mhm.
long time, you know? So I highly agree with the balance. And I was even gonna ask you, like, how does it feel um being in my mind, what I've observed in such a healthy space is like this a healthy young Black man who's really worked on himself and who's gone through just this healing journey. But then knowing that there are a lot of young Black women out there, and I'll speak for myself, to where we're learning these tools. um and you know, the word like narcissist comes up a lot, the word sociopath comes up a lot. And so thankfully I feel like I'm able to really discern now, because I've been through the ringer, when somebody's putting on a front, when it's somebody's representative, versus when this is who somebody truly is to their core of just being like a really kind person. But we're given these tools as like a young woman, young men as well, because there are women narcissists as well, and women who are sociopaths. But my point is, we're told like, don't share a whole bunch of your trauma with somebody because they'll be able to throw it back in your face at some point, right? But then back a couple of thoughts ago, you mentioned like how beautiful it is for somebody to be vulnerable with you and to be able to share those things. And it's like, damn, like when you're the woman who's getting told don't share these things to somebody, at least, and maybe they're just not being specific enough, because they're saying like don't share it, maybe they mean in the beginning of the relationship. I don't know. Like I remember I was on Bumble shortly after my relationship had ended, and I was like, "Hey, yeah, so I've been in an abusive relationship," and the boy literally commented and was like, "I could tell." First of all, what the fuck do you mean you can tell? Second of all, that's fucked up. Like I wish that I was the person that I am today, because I very much so would have given them my peace of mind, but it had me so self-conscious for a while. But one thing I'm thankful for is that I never fucking started no conversation like that again. Granted, I didn't start the conversation like that. I'm sure we were talking about past relationships or something, but I as a man who wants that vulnerability, like how are you able to navigate that when you know that we're on the other end being told like don't share too much, don't be too vulnerable, like if he does this then it's this, that, and a third. Like that's why I asked you about love bombing earlier and being able to like decipher the difference, because some people like we deserve
Yeah.
it. How can we see it and believe it?
If I'm giving you my honest answer, it's hard, and I feel like I say everything's hard on this podcast, but like it's difficult as a man because like from my perspective, like men are not supposed to be vulnerable. I find myself in a lot of situations in which I'm talking to somebody. I feel like sometimes in the dynamic, like I'm the more feminine one because I'm
Mhm,
the one who's a lot more upfront with the emotion.
mhm,
And I struggle with that because sometimes I feel lesser than a man, or that when I'm talking to some of my friends that are girls, especially the ones who have been hurt, they're the ones who are like, I had a friend who was like, bro, you gotta be more like a nigga. Like, you gotta be more like a nigga in these situations, right? Like, you gotta be, girls don't wanna hear all that emotional. I just had a conversation with one of my homeboys. He was like, girls don't wanna hear like how vulnerable and how open you are. They say they want that, but they not ready for the depth of that. Like, you can't bring that to the table. You gotta wait. And I struggle with that because I definitely think there's a little validity in both of those, in both sides,
mhm,
as far as again, like when something is unfamiliar to you, it makes you uncomfortable, which can also scare you.
mhm,
But again, going back to what I said earlier, although I feel like sometimes I'm like the most emotional one, especially early on, or I'm the one who I'm able to talk about my emotions. I'm able to be vulnerable, especially if I like you. Like I'm looking for somebody who I can. You're my best friend. You're my go-to. I don't have to. I don't want to. I love my friends. All my friends that are girls to death.
mhm.
But I would rather much just go to you and talk. my wins, my highs, my lows. I want to go to you first. Of course, I'm going to share it with everybody else,
Yeah.
but I want to go to you first. I think how I deal with it is, again, I think about who's the man that I want to be. And like when I think about the man I want to be, I don't want to be the person who has to subscribe to the patriarchy way of thinking. I don't want to be the man who subscribes to this idea that a man can't be vulnerable. I don't want to be the man who subscribes to the bar is low. So in order to get the person of your dreams or the person who you like, you have to be at the standard of the bar. I'm somebody who I want to continuously raise the bar. I want to continuously do better for women. I want to continuously do better for myself, more importantly. And again, not be a persona of myself. Like the one thing that I want people to know, like if you're getting me, you're getting the authentic me. You're getting the person who I'm gonna tell you, like I'm scared to hurt you. I don't have this experience. I've never been in a relationship. Sure, I know how to maintain and regulate my emotions and communicate and be with all these people, but I also acknowledge that I'm a fearful avoidant. So the more real this gets, the more I want to fall back. And it's not because of you. It's because like my own insecurity in myself. Like I'm the person who will say this. And the thing I had to recognize is like, just because I can communicate, just because I can share these things, I can be vulnerable, it does not entitle me to anybody. So it's like all I can do is give my truth and live in my truth. And that person is gonna have to make a decision for themselves. Now, where my hope is that based on all the things that we communicate, you will have enough, I would say, respect, not necessarily respect, but you'll have enough um transparency is a better word. Because I think people respect you, but enough transparency to be able to be honest and open and say, hey, I'm scared too, or this is a lot, or I'm not used to this, or I'm scared. So then that way I can manage my emotions. And if I need to fall back, then I can fall back. But I think why I struggle and the reason why I say respect is because a lot of people, a lot of women respect me. And because they respect me, they don't want to hurt me. So they try to not communicate these things in hopes that I'll get the sign, not understanding so much of my trauma response is because you don't give me a chance to make a decision for myself. So I would say it's definitely hard from my perspective of it, but I also acknowledge and understand the nuance of like, okay, you didn't tell me not because you don't respect me, but because you genuinely care about me and you don't want me to be hurt. So like, yeah, it hurts a little bit more because now I had to figure this out by myself, and it took a while and the roller coaster. Oh, you like me, you don't like me, you like me, you don't like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't fault a woman because again, the bar is low. How many terrible men have come into her life and told her she can't even trust somebody that's vulnerable? And I think that's the part of just being a man in this patriarchy in this society.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things in which I've been hurt, it's not because of her and it's not because of me, but it's because of the idea of how we're supposed to be when we're trying to make things work with each other. So I say all to say it's very hard. A lot of times I might feel lesser, but like I just affirm myself and remind myself again, like what's for me is not gonna miss me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And although even that phrase in itself can be problematic at times, I just try to remind myself like my person is coming. And like when that person shows up, I'm not gonna have to dim any part of my light to be with them. So like I'm gonna continue to shine as bright as I can. And if that makes other people move away, then even though it might feel like rejection, that is an absolute positive thing
Yes.
because it's taking me closer to the person who's supposed to be with me.
Yes. Yes, I fully agree. And I don't want anybody to meet me with my dimmed light. Like, cause then you don't know the real
Yeah.
me. So yeah, you might as well let it shine.
But I will say though, the most important thing to like walk away with it, it does hurt. And I don't want to take anything away. It does hurt. I do have to heal from it. Like I do have to be like, damn, here, like again, how we started the conversation. Damn, here I am again. Like, I don't know. I don't know where I feel like my heart hurts. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, damn, I feel like I found the one, but I didn't. All right, man. Now I gotta go back and like heal and comfort and learn and self-love and go through all the tools so I could build it up again to go back out there. So like everything I said, but also you got to give yourself the space to like heal. And I think a lot of us we don't acknowledge the pain, so we are unable to process it. And like you got to
Mhm.
acknowledge that pain.
Damn, that part. I think that's something I definitely recognize when talking to you after your Instagram live, like being able to share stuff with you about my relationship and like things that I learned from that live about like my healing journey, but then
Mm-hmm.
being able to like even reflect more deeply, like damn, I didn't realize that this had such a toll on my psyche and on my vision of dating until I heard this conversation with Nigel, or you know what I'm saying. So just thank you
Mm-hmm.
for being able to bring that thought process out of me and being able to motivate hopefully other people to want to tap in and heal and reflect as well, and feel the hurt, because I think sometimes we don't reflect because we don't want to feel the hurt, we don't want to feel it again, or we don't want to feel it in the first place. So I think it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Shout out to you for being able to allow yourself to feel the full spectrum. Like my therapist literally told me of emotions, like your emotions are meant to be felt, and I was like, oh my god, like what a interesting concept, you know. So I think that, like you said, it takes a lot of,
Yeah.
it's not easy, but you can either numb out, you know, and dissociate and not feel the things and not process anything, or you can process it, take that time. Like even a conversation with you, I realized like, damn, it's only been this amount of time since my last relationship. And I've done so much healing. But in my mind, before you and I had talked, it was like, damn, like why do I still feel this way? Like, why am I still processing? Like, why am I, you know, and I didn't give myself that
Mm-hmm.
time. Like, I went through a lot of trauma, so I deserve to give myself a lot of time to be able to decompress from that so I can be better and feel better in just future aspects of my life, whether it's dating or just as a whole. So, thank you for that compassionate outlook. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate you. I just want you to know, in my short reflection, this is by far the greatest like podcast I've ever done in my life. Like I feel like every point of like conversation, everything that we talk about is just so like on point and in line. And I feel like I've this conversation is like fire to have at the end of the year for me, because it shows me how much I've grown as a person and
Mhm,
like how much healing I've done this year. So
mhm.
like I just want to thank you for these opportunities. I'm excited for these questions. Like, but this is by far like the greatest podcast I've ever done in my life. Like I feel like I'm like cooking. I'm bringing points. Like I'm like, oh wow, yo, you really growing. Like you diff. Like yeah, no, this is fire.
Yes, come on, self-reflection. We fucking love to see it. Now, this is amazing. Thank you. I'm like, like when I'm asking the questions, I'm imagining like the people that I want to like the people that I want to hear this podcast. Like I'm imagining the promos in my head, like everything. I'm so grateful. You're literally dropping so many gems. I'm learning so much, and like I get excited about watching the playbacks and stuff, like when I'm solo, but I'm like really fucking excited to like watch this back and really be able to like just watch it from a different lens as opposed to me like doing the interviews and just like sitting through it. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
being here. I appreciate it. And thank you for your transparency. All
no
right.
doubt.
Ready for the final questions?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I wanted to ask you, have you seen a healthy relationship? And if so, what did it look like?
Yeah. I would say like the healthiest relationship in my life is my parents. They I think this year they just celebrated 40 years of marriage. So yeah, that is by far like the healthiest relationship that I've seen, and just kind of watching them navigate it on top of all the other relationships I've seen in my life with friends, other family members, and seeing like their relationship dynamics. It really helped me, but also hurt at times to see like it's either this like amazing, incredible marriage, or
Mhm.
it's just like really, really like broken marriage. You know what I mean? Or like relationship. So I've always had this kind of like black and white thinking when it came to relationships. It's like it's either really, really great and really incredible, or it's like really, really terrible. And there's no middle ground. And I feel like that played a part into my struggle of like dating, because it's like if I get one ick, I was like, oh, it's never gonna work out. It's not gonna work out. It's like, nah, now that I'm older, I see like, oh, nah, you tripping. Like, you should have gave it a chance. You're supposed to build this. This is not something you find. But in my mind, it's something you find. or that's how I thought about it. So it's like, oh, it's either you find this like great relationship or you
Mhm.
find something that's really broken and no middle ground. But I would say, to answer your question, the healthiest relationship by far is like my parents.
That's deep. I love that. And that's rare. Like because when I like think of that for myself, I can't think of a relationship that I've seen that's been healthy from, say, quote unquote, start to finish. Like I feel like I know even like adult relationships, like older adults in my life, like I actually know a lot about their inner parts of their relationship. But I do believe
Hmm.
that there are really beautiful relationships out there, like your parents, to where you can live in harmony. Yes, you can do the work, and like you can love each other, and it can be a beautiful, like, genuine relationship. Like I don't want to believe that every relationship is like toxic and has this like stuff going on behind the scenes. But I think
Yeah,
bearing witness to that, like as in your parents, and being able to grow up around that is really helpful. Because it just gives you kind of a blueprint in a way of what to expect. And then, like you said, the negative relationships, or the relationships that just might have some unhealthy aspects, like it's helpful to see those too, because like you said, you can just see what you never want. Again, even when we talked earlier about like
hmm,
couple arguing on the street, I'm like, well, back in the day, I probably would have felt a bit different about like seeing a couple arguing on the street and my thoughts about it. But I think now, standards wise, like because I've been through what I've been through, and because I've seen like what other people in my life have been through relationship wise, I'm like, I actually don't want a relationship where we yell. And a part of my mind is like, that's unrealistic. But then another part of me is like, is it really? Like, I have full friendships where I've never yelled at them. Like, I don't yell at my parents. The one time that I yelled at my mom, I was fucking tripping, and I was in my relationship and I had lost my mind. So I give myself a lot of grace on that, but still actively forgiving myself on that. But yeah, like I don't
yeah,
like yell or even argue. Like I don't want to argue, and I'm like, is that a weird thing to add? Like, is that a standard that I'm placing too high upon myself? But it's like, no, because I've gone my life in other
nah,
relationships or friendships where I didn't argue or I didn't yell. So yeah, it just
yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think that's too much to ask for. But I caution people because I think there's always this kind of like correlation between like your parents being together and always it equating to like healthy understanding.
mm,
And although you have a higher chance for sure, I think also too, depending on that relationship dynamic, it could also shape the way in which you view relationships, for
yes.
better or for worse too. So I think, like at the end of the day, regardless of like the foundation you come from, you still gonna have to build it. But I think the benefit of seeing it is like it's possible. Right?
Yes.
Like I have friends who come from like single parent homes and they're like, there's no way. Or they're like they've seen the divorce and they're like, I don't believe it's gonna always work. Like one of my friends, she was just telling me about how like, yeah, it's all cool when we start, but I feel like after a certain threshold of like 4 or 5 years, that's what I'm really waiting to see. Whereas like for me, I kind of come into this perspective of like, oh no, it can work. I don't even really see like a
Mm-hmm.
problem, which can be a problem. It can create blind spots. So I
Mm,
think no matter the dynamic in which you come from your foundation, you gotta be able to process the good and the blind spots too. Because
yes.
I definitely like when I was younger, especially in college, I had a lot of blind spots. Like
Mm-hmm.
if this ain't perfect, I don't want it. But
Mm-hmm.
then as I'm getting older and I'm like really reflecting on like my parents' relationship, it's like, ooh, I ain't never really seen them argue for real, maybe only once. Which people would be like, yo, that's a really good thing. But at the same time, I've also never seen them work through an argument. You know what I mean? So like when I'm in a position where I'm arguing with somebody, I'm just like, I'm walking away. Like, I don't care. Like, what are we arguing about? But there's still validity in that conversation. It's just a matter of
Mm-hmm.
how you have that conversation. Because I've never seen it. And again, in
Mm-hmm.
my eyes, my parents' relationship was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is not healthy at all. Where it's like how you argue is not always healthy. The conversation that you're having is a healthy conversation that needs to be had
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what's going on. So I think again, like regardless of your foundation, you got to be aware of those blind spots 100%.
No, that is true as fuck. My mom and dad, well, my mom used to say that in regards to her and my dad, like I would see the arguments, but I would see the arguments, but I wouldn't see them make up. And she'd be like, Atiya needs to see the makeup too, so that like she knows how to resolve this in her life. Basically, at least that was my interpretation of what I remember being told as a child. So it's just interesting that to hear your perspective on that as well. And I also loved when you said earlier about being in the moment, right? Like with your lover and appreciating like every single moment that you have with them. Because I realized like, I thought that I actually had a fear of attachment as a whole, or like a fear of commitment more so. Because I was so scared of the forever. Because in my last relationship, I was so paranoid about him cheating, which he did in the beginning. So like there was really no fear to be had after that. It just kept going. But I think my point is that like I kept being so scared of the end. And then when the end finally came, I felt such relief. Like I felt that freedom that I had been looking for our whole relationship. And I love that you mentioned like also that you want your partner in the relationship to feel free. Because I think that that's why I've loved the idea of polyamory when I first got invited into it for my first like lesbian partnership, because it's so unpossessive, you know, like you did feel free. You feel like you could like love anyone. But my point is going back to the to my commitment issues. I think that living moments day by day and not worrying about the end or worrying about the forever or whatever the case may be, and more so focusing on like this person can be like my reason, my season, or my lifetime, whatever the case may be. But regardless, I want to enjoy every season that I have with them, even if it's just one or whatever the case may be. And I think that's something that I lack a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're not the only one. I'm like really leaning to this like definition. Like as you're talking, the one thing I keep thinking about is just this idea of like being able to let somebody in is giving them the ability to hurt you and trusting that they won't. You know what I mean? And I think it's really hard not to worry about that, especially when you've been hurt a lot. Because
Yeah.
so much of it is like going back to that joy piece.
Yes.
It's like we fear joy, but we gotta lean in, we gotta be present in it. Because when we walk away, a lot of times we end up thinking like, dang, I wish I'd done more. I wish I did more.
Yep.
And like the ability to walk away and be like, no, I gave it all that I got and I'm proud of myself for that is a feeling that a lot of people do not get to enjoy.
Yeah. 1,000%. And like you said, everything that you want is on the other side of fear. Like that's literally on the other side. So you have to go through the motions. And it's so interesting though, because even when you say like you want to trust that the person's not going to hurt you, it's like, well, I'm also learning that in this book called Not Nice, like we're not in control of other people's feelings, right? And I used to put I used to make a lot of people responsible for my feelings. And I still to this day take on everybody's emotions as my own, or feel responsible for how people feel, whether they're around me, whether we interact. Like, say that I say something, I can be thinking for 3 hours later, like, oh my God, did I offend Nigel when I said that? Because I really wasn't trying to offend him, and this, that, and the third. Like, that's how my brain works. But learning now, like breaking out of my people pleasing, that it's not my responsibility necessarily on how people feel. It's hard because that's something that I've had to break myself out of. But I also think that that can be a healthy thought if you don't have like malice in your heart, right? So when I think about hurt, I'm like, okay, is your definition of hurting like cheating? Like I'm scared to be cheated on. That's just like a bit of betrayal that it's just still a rub, obviously. But am I scared to be hurt in the way that the person might hurt my feelings? Yeah, that too. Like, you know, so how I'm trying to figure out how to navigate like living in the nobody's responsible for, but then also like this person can hurt me because they're human. Like humans can hurt you accidentally, you know, but they can still love you, but not in like an abusive way, you know, like what the fuck? Like the line is so goddamn thin on like the human hurt versus the malicious hurt. It's like, it's just so interesting to
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's a really great point. And honestly, like as you were talking, I was thinking like, damn, like at the end of the day, like your partner's gonna hurt you regardless. You know what I mean? They're gonna disappoint you. They're gonna let you down. They're gonna like that hurt is coming in some capacity. But I guess it's not just trust that they're not gonna hurt you, but trust that when they do hurt you or if they do hurt you, that they're willing to help you heal too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Help you heal through it. And I think that's like the missing piece. It's this idea of like, yeah, I probably will disappoint you and I might hurt you and let you down. But I'm here to help you. I'm here to validate how you feeling and also help you get through it because the bigger picture, I just want to be with you.
And that's where the care comes in. That like I'm always requiring now in my mind in relationships and in friendships. Like if you care about me, then if you care enough to peep and observe that you hurt me, or that something that you did might have caused me to feel a bit of hurt, or something that you did might have triggered a past hurt that I felt. Thank you for caring and like taking the steps to help me like work through that, if that makes sense. Because I'm
Yeah,
learning,
for sure.
yeah, this human shit is crazy.
It's hard. It is so hard.
So hard. Capital H. That's what she said. But it's hard. Okay. We're coming around to the sex conversation in a second, but the last question I wanted to ask you about relationships was, when it comes to your desires for a relationship and like what you truly desire the most and are looking forward to the most, is it that building that you were talking about in the beginning and just encompassing everything that you wanted, the safety and the emotional intelligence and the conversations and the communication and all of that? Or is it more so, what are you looking forward to the most when you find that beautiful someone to be in a relationship with you?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I have two answers. My
Okay.
first answer is like the more my inner child. My inner
Mhm.
child wants to just get past the I like you stage. Like I wanna say I like you, and I want the person to say I like you back, and then we actually start building. Because like for context, I've never gotten past I've never exclusively dated somebody. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like it's always been to a point of like casually dating or going out, or like me wanting to be with one person or they're talking to other people. But it always got to this part of like, again, I like you. You said you like me. In my mind, it's supposed to go this way. It trails downwards. So instead of going up and like, oh, we're actually starting to build and we're actually starting to make this like work, it ends up turning like awful and terrible. So like my inner child wants to just get through it and be at a point where so like we're exclusively dating. We're actually taking the time to really get to know each other. I'm putting in effort and you're putting in effort. Like I'm not going through this roller coaster of emotion. Um, that is like the inner child answer.
Mhm.
My honest answer is what I'm looking forward to most is just the love of
Mhm.
it all. You know what I mean? Like I want it all. I want us to get excited. Damn, you had a long day. At least I get to go home to my person, to my beautiful black wife. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking forward to the whole like, how am I gonna propose to you? Oh, this is what you like. Oh, how can I surprise? I'm looking forward to your birthday. How can I like make your day? I'm looking forward to my birthday when I'm telling you I don't want to do anything. Still
Mhm.
try to find a way to make it special, even though I don't care, but I low key care, but I say I don't care, but I care. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to those moments where we're going out on dates and it just feels like, wow, I'm with you. Like you chose me and I chose you, and like I'm so lucky to have you. And yeah, you're lucky to have me, but I can't see that because I'm just so happy to be with you. I'm looking forward to the conversation of like, do we want to bring children in? And then we raise these children, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm the funny dad, I'm the goofy dad, and maybe hopefully like I'm a girl dad, you know what I mean? Or I have a son and I'm loving them, or I look forward to it all
Yeah.
because I think so much. Again, the human experience is not meant to be alone. And granted, I've done this experience for 29 years of my life by myself, and I'm doing pretty damn well, all things considered.
Absolutely.
But it's like there's certain things that you do that you don't want to just do it by yourself. You want to share, you want to talk to people, you want to like I want to go home and cuddle up and just watch these movies and watch this reality TV show that I really don't give a fuck about. But now that I'm watching with you, like now I actually like invested in these people's lives, but I'm really invested in just spending time with you. And now I'm invested in these lives. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
for all of it. You know what I mean? Even the low moments where it's like you're hurting and I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Maybe I was the one who hurt you. I would love to like, what can I do to make things better? I'm hurting. I don't. If you know me, I'm not a crier. I'm not someone who will cry. But maybe because I'm with you, I feel safe enough to like just let it all out. I don't know, but I feel like so much of my life I had to navigate alone, and not necessarily alone in the sense like I've had community, I have friends, I have people I could support to. But if I'm being fully honest and vulnerable and transparent, I never felt like I had one person.
Mm-hmm.
It's always somebody different that I go to. And I'm looking forward to, like, I guess the thing I'm looking forward to the most is having one person who I can really just trust and confide in and love and be with, and somebody who's gonna hold me down, I'm gonna hold them down, and we're teammates and collaborators going through this life and just figuring it out together. Because again, like I've done pretty damn well by myself,
Mm-hmm.
not because I want to, because I have to. You know what I mean? So like I'm ready for that moment where it's like, yeah, I'm a movement by myself, but when I'm with her, woo, woo, we a force when we're together. You already know the vibe. You already know the vibe.
That used to be my shit. I was like, how old when that came out? Like 13? I used to be like, you make me better. Like on repeat, back to back. So
Facts. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
yeah.
I'm waiting for that. Like, yeah.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. That makes my heart happy. And I feel like I was watching you like be excited about that. Like I feel like I was like I could envision all of that shit. Like I literally could see all that shit playing out like in my head. Like that's just so beautiful. I feel like I'm so excited. Like I know that your journey is gonna happen naturally. Cause at one point I was like, ooh, like I should do like a dating show segment and be like, date Nigel, and like you know what I'm saying? Like and then like have like contestants. Are you looking for love? I have the perfect bachelor.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Everybody be, yo, what's funny about that is like everybody's like, yo, Nigel, you should be on a dating show. And like I don't know if part of people wants me to be on a dating show because it's like they want me to actually date, or they just want me to psychoanalyze everybody. But like either way, like I might have to one day at these points. Like, Lord have mercy, it's hard out here.
But you're too good for these dating shows because half of these girls be signing up for clout. Like, did I tell you I was on a dating show? On fucking like an online dating show? Yo,
Nah.
I never thought, I haven't even talked about this on the podcast. I was on fucking this show. My dumbass was not dumbass. My beautiful self was the only one that I feel like was on there for real love. Like, I really was like, it was during the pandemic. I was like, yeah, it was only me, maybe two black men, maybe three, but I counted the third one out to the asshole. I think it was just two though. And then like 5 black women, and then like you know, it's always like the ratio is always off of women to men. So we were like doubling up on the men.
Yeah.
And then like I feel like the host was racist, and she ended up forgetting about me because I had to leave like after the first episode. But it was only because I was on a flight. Like I had a birthday vacation. It was a lot. But anyways, long story short, I did not end up finding love, and this black man chose a white woman over me. And I was like, wow, racism.
I'm gonna say my thoughts. I'm gonna say my thoughts.
Maybe after the show kind
I'm
of
gonna say I'm a black woman stand account. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, love is love, but I'm a black woman stand account unapologetically.
okay, like I have so many pent up feelings, but I didn't even have feelings for that man deeply. They tell me why I'm gonna unfollow him because Negro, like, person, you didn't take me on this freaking trip. Is Negro inappropriate to say? Because I've been calling everybody Negro, and I'm like, is that racist, racially charged? But it's like,
Nah, you black. It's all right.
thank you. Okay, so I was like, Negro, like,
yeah, you black. It's okay.
You like, so I don't need you on my Instagram no more. You don't like my shit, and I unfollowed him. And he had the nerve to DM me 2 seconds after I unfollowed him, talking about why you unfollow me.
Yeah.
2 seconds ago. Anyways, thank you for listening to my rant about the dating show. But if you go, just make sure you got some branded hoodies, some branded t-shirts. Put your book on one of your t-shirts.
Oh, you already know. I feel like they're not gonna let me in because they know it's an obvious bias. Like somebody's gonna come up to me and be like, "Listen, baby girl, you are amazing, and I'm here for you, and I will support you trying to find your love with Trevor and Brad and Jack, but not I to this spot. Like I'm looking for a specific. I'm looking for something specific here.
Literally, especially if you do one of them shows where they be having them like one token black woman, like wow, they just do it so dirty. But you know, I watch all the reality shows, so I fully understand. I mean, I don't understand about the racism, but I understand about the, like, I wanted to be on a reality dating show, not the one that I was on because I was not it, but I wanted to be on like Love Island or something like that. Okay, so I actually wanted to reflect on the podcast that we did for your podcast, the Nigel Marcellus interview series, because you had made a really good, yeah, like observation in regards to, I think, a conversation that you and some friends had, or maybe just you had observed from other conversations with men. And it was about how men have sex, not necessarily to say that they're not to really please their partner or please themselves, but really just to be able to go back to their friends and say if they had sex. Am I quoting you correctly? Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. So like the concept that you're bringing up is like men are typically homosocial. So like what that means is men essentially do things to impress other men and not to impress women. So for example, using sex. It's like a man will have a sex with a woman, and regardless if like he was good, if she was able to reach her orgasm or anything, just the ability of having sex with her, he will run to his like group of friends and be like, "Yeah, I hit it." And that is a way of him to gain status in those friendships, because so much of like the patriarchy is about impressing other men and figuring out who is more man enough. And the more bodies that you have, the more people you sleep with, gives you more value in the patriarchy of manlyhood, right? So I think like to your point, yeah, that's and again, because I know like there's people who are like, oh, that's not me. I never it's not every man,
Right.
but for sure for a lot of people who don't even recognize or understand how much they subscribe to this idea of masculinity and toxic masculinity that's taught in society, so much of that comes from this idea of men being homosocial.
I love that phrase, or that phrase, yeah, or what would it be called, like a category of homosocial. Like I can see that in so many of the friendships that I've seen within guys that I've dated with their other male friends, and even feeling like, oh, they kind of treasured their male friends more than they treasured like me or whatever their relationship or whatever the case may be. So I think to be able to put a
Mhm.
word to just like the social aspect of it all, like homosocial, is super interesting. So thank you for that. I
Yeah.
quote you on that with like, I feel like every conversation I have in regards to dating, I'm like, and my friend Nigel said,
Shout out, you know what's crazy? I was actually in a group. It was like a male accountability group. I guess it was like a social group for us to like really just talk. And I couldn't tell you who said it. It was like years ago. But I remember the first person who brought it up. He was like, "Men are homosocial." I'm like, "Homosocial?" And this is around the time where for me, I was like, the word homo, like what?
mm-hmm,
Homosocial. And then he
mm-hmm.
broke it down. And the more I reflected and the more I thought about it, I was like, dang, we really be out here like doing stuff for other men. It's like we go to and we brag and we talk about all these certain topics, but then these other more important topics, like we don't talk about with men at all. So yeah, I think the minute I learned that, it was like powerful word for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And I feel like we hadn't actually really talked about like your journey with celibacy. Like we've talked about your dating life, but we actually haven't touched on your celibacy. So I know, but can you share with the listeners how long you've been celibate?
Yeah, so I've been celibate. It's 2023 right now. I've been celibate since 2017. I want to say 2017. Yeah, I always get the years mixed up. It's like, is it 16 or something?
Yeah.
2017. So I've been celibate for that long. And again, I think it's a lot of different things.
Mhm.
But for mostly it's partially by choice,
Mhm.
but also by design.
Okay.
Um, I again, I would be lying if I said I didn't have people who like would want to have sex with me. I think it's more so the sense of like recognizing one, there's like a trauma response, right? Like I've had friends who had these dreams and aspirations and their whole life changed because they got somebody pregnant. So like my
Mm,
biggest fear is to be able to get somebody pregnant with the understanding of my parents' relationships. One of the most important dynamics of their relationship that I learned is that they waited to have me. So
mhm.
whether my mom and my dad are like my dad's the oldest on his side of the family. My mom is the second oldest in like her sibling dynamic. Both of them waited to have me until they were like financially stable and were comfortable and felt like they could take care. And I want to make sure that I'm intentional in that way. So I think part of me is like I have this like overarching fear of like, oh man, if I was to get somebody pregnant, one, I'm not ready. Number two, it becomes this idea of like, if I was to get somebody pregnant, am I really comfortable with you raising my child? Right. So like worst case scenario, we having sex and like, damn, condom broke. Oh man, you're keeping the baby. Oh man. Like there's always gonna be that first, like, oh man, I'm not ready. But if your body, your choice. So if you make that choice, am I comfortable with your values and who you are and what you're striving for, what you built for yourself or what you're building towards? That if not us being together, like on a co-parenting joint, and I usually use it as a co-parenting way, even though I'm 100% like I want to try to build with whoever it is, but from a co-parenting standpoint, am I comfortable with your values and like the things that you're building towards to say like, yeah, you can raise my child? A lot of times when that question goes in my mind, it's a quick no, and not because you're not. Maybe it's I just don't know you enough, but for the most part, a no is a no. So it's like, that's two. Three, I would say there's also like I'd be lying if I said I didn't have my own insecurities because of the lack of having sex and this idea of how sex is supposed to be. There's always that fear of like, damn, am I big enough? Damn, can I please her? Damn, am I like she might have had like multiple partners. Am I able to like not necessarily compete, but I guess it is like, can I compete in this? Like, I want to make sure that she gets hers and she's pleased and she's like has her experience beyond mine. And I think as a guy, like men are usually naturally more equipped to get their orgasm versus a woman, which it takes a little bit more work. So my own insecurity of like, man, will I be enough for her? Will I be able to help her like get to hers? That's part of it. And I think the last number four and the last one is just like generally, it's not that I'm unimpressed, but I think like when it comes to like the standard and what I require, I don't often meet people who like reach those requirements. And if there's one thing about me, people talk about it and we joke, but like I stand on business for the things that I require. So if I don't feel as if like you really hitting those attributes or those requirements, then it's hard for me to sit back and be like, yes, let me just jump into that. And granted, some of those are my own internal, but I would be lying if I also didn't note that damn I'd be struggling too. I'd be like, damn, I have moments where I'm man, I really could have. Why didn't you just do it, bro? Like it's not even that deep. It don't even have to be that deep, bro. Like just you know what I mean? But I don't know. Again, it's one of them things where I told myself in like 2024, I was like, yeah, man, I think I want to break the celibacy. But even in the decision to break it, it's like who do I trust? Who am I comfortable with? Because again, the same requirements that I have when it comes to the bed are amplified because that's also in addition to like the relationship. If I don't feel safe around you from the jump, it's not even a question. I don't even want to live with you. You know what I mean? So do you inspire me? Like all of those still factor into it on top of the additional like requirements when it comes to like sex in itself. So it's people always be like, damn, I don't know how you do it. I've just always had to by design. If you don't have anybody around you, then I'm not gonna force my way. Like, why? What are you talking about? That's you know what I mean. So you just gotta. For me, it's just patience, and again, understanding like what's for me is not gonna miss me. I'll find the right person. But I definitely be having moments where I'm like, yo, you like, bro, she naked right here, like, bro, like, what are you doing? And I just be like, nah, I just can't do it. Man, we can do everything, but you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You're just gonna have to do it.
I feel it. Okay, so all right, so you're like me in the sense of you've done like foreplay and things of that, just not penetrative sex.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Treat your girl right at all times, man.
Period. Heavy on the eat.
Heavy, heavy.
This is really refreshing to hear because I used to have this rule in my head. Don't know what the fuck happened to it, but it was like I've always been very paranoid about pregnancy. And even when I was in my relationship, when I got on birth control for them 2 weeks, he was like, oh, great, like we can do a raw now. And I'm like, oh no, like this was double protection, my brother. Like we doing condoms and birth control. So I feel like that was probably that was a thing that I always felt like a disconnect with a lot of men. Like a lot of guys didn't necessarily care about pregnancy and getting me pregnant. And I'm like, I want to see it to the point where I would literally like, and it just hit me that I did this with my ex every single time that we had sex. And then I started doing it with guys afterwards too. But I would make him fucking take off the condom and then go like this and make sure that your shit is not seeping out. Like push that fucking cum to the bottom of the condom and make sure there's no holes and no drips. Cause I'm not trying. First of all, I don't even want to take a plan B. I will, and I have taken one because I fell asleep with a condom inside of me. But otherwise, I don't want to have to take a plan B. I don't want to have to get an abortion, but I am very much so pro-choice. I say I'm pro-abortion, but that sounds kind of fucked up. So I'll just say I'm pro-choice. But I'm not. I can't bring life into this world right now, or I don't know. I don't fucking know. But and then also can't bring life into the world like with my ex or with any of the guys that I fucked around with. Like I can't imagine it. So just the fact that used to be my rule of like, I'm not going to have sex with anybody unless I can see them fathering my child. And then it just spiraled into what it spiraled into when I started on my exploration phase. It's just refreshing to hear that. Also, like STDs are a thing. Like, you know, not everybody's so
yeah,
yeah, when you were like, oh,
STDs for sure.
Yeah, slim pickings, like especially when I would finally meet a guy that I was officially attracted to and then would ask him to get tested. It's a dub. Like I'm not either I'm not hearing from him again, or he's just gonna keep teasing me with like sexting and shit, and I'm just gonna get bored of that because you're playing with me. Like what is the point of not getting tested at all? Just for your own knowledge. So heavy on that. But
I'm right there with you. And before you asked that question, the one piece I definitely want to say too is like I think especially when it comes to sex, whatever your choice you make, it has no reflection of me. So like, I know a lot of people who be like, damn, so you must think you're better. Nah, I promise you, I'm not. I feel like, honestly, I'm missing out on the sidewalk while I'm watching y'all in the street having all the good time in the world. But I think at the end of the day, like, if you want to have a lot of sex, go for it. I'm all for it. Your body, your choice, your delivery. I think just for me, when I was at my loneliness and like my lowest moment, the one thing I always had in my core was my dream, right? My dream of being and doing and talk show host. And I've always had a fear of something interrupting that. Like even outside of that, like school, the way school's set up is pushing me back. And I feel like that's holding me back from my dream and what I want to do. And that's hard for me to reckon with. So like when it came to like sex and everything in that nature, especially when I started having friends having babies and we had these plans and it shifted, that was fear of me. Like, oh, I can't risk it. Like I'm going towards something bigger. I don't want to mess that up. And granted, like if you have a baby or whatever, it doesn't mean you can't do it, but it does mean your priorities change while you're doing it. And if you don't have the right person to build, it makes it more difficult. And I'm trying to get there in a way that it is not me making it more difficult than it needs to be. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you just kind of like have to stand on business.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And there's a lot of pent up energy and built. And I for sure like whoever my partner is, they're gonna get all this energy. And they say Scorpios are supposed to be you getting all of this energy. And I haven't like really learned my body and figured out what works and what doesn't work. And, you're getting a whole lot of energy. And sure, there's a lot of times where I'm like, damn, I tapped out. You got it, but I'm gonna come back. But once I catch fire, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
In the words of Mariah Carey, it's a wrap. You remember that trending sound? That was my shit. And she's with Mary J. Blige too. But yes, I feel that so heavily. I don't feel like we think that we're better than anybody because we're celibate. I know for me, like this was not a choice originally. Like I very much so, like I said, it came from, I think it was just like continuous trauma. And then I was so stuck in the trauma that I didn't even realize I kept continuously re-traumatizing myself until like the universe was like, all right, T, like fucking take a pause. And then that's when the whole like testing thing happened and nobody wanted to get tested. And a lot of stuff just unfurled. So I just gave in officially. But I will say that I definitely agree about like the whole dream aspect of things. I definitely feel like that can keep you on the right track. But I did want to say about just like body positivity. The Scorpio that I told you about, like, not to put a shit out there, but I already said it in episode 3, I think it is. Like, he definitely had the smaller sized penis, like on the spectrum of penis sizes. And I've experienced the entire spectrum, mostly of like the super large size. So I know you just like just being aware of your body and just trying to make sure you're pleasing your partner. Like, the only vaginal orgasm I've ever been able to have was literally from him, and I want to say it was maybe 4 to 5 inches, which is the average penis size. So I know a lot of guys get in their heads about like, does size matter, this, that, and third. No matter what size it is, like, you can rock some shit with it. And you also have to be careful with it. Like, if it's really big, then you do have to be like, use the O nut and like use certain barriers and like certain shit to be able to take care of your body. A lot of people don't talk about that part either, of if it's larger, be careful, you know? So I just want to make sure I
You know what's fire or funny? I guess like I feel like there's this era, especially when you're in like high school. As a guy, like high school, maybe college, not so much, but more like high school, where like people was like, "Yo, what?" Like, I guess like consciously you think to yourself like, "Wow, I wonder how big I am." And you measure it. I've like never measured myself, so I genuinely like don't know. I know like I've never got complaints. I've never had anybody like come back and be like, "Nah, this is." But it's like if I had to measure one day, curious.
Yo, if I
curious now.
I would have been measured it. Like, I mean, I guess I haven't measured my boobs, so that's not really nothing to measure, because they measured at Victoria's Secret for me. But yeah, I would have definitely. But and then I heard that guys sometimes they'd be having like, do you ever see, what's that movie? Is it Moonlight? But I heard that guys be having like dick competitions, like trying to see like who has. Is that like a thing? Like, do guys?
Yo, I don't know what you talking about. Listen, I can only speak for myself and my friends. We ain't never do no shit like that before. We ain't never do no shit like that before. But yo, if you do that, ain't no judgment. Shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to the bros and whatever y'all got going on.
Exactly, swing the dicks.
Yeah, over on this side, we do not do that. But you know what was crazy though? Like locker room culture for certain sports, like they got showers, so people like going to the shower. So you might, I don't know. Me, I ain't never did that before. That's funny. What's the movie where they be? Yo, that's hilarious.
I swear, and then after I realized I thought it was Moonlight, I'm like, oh yeah, that definitely does make sense, because that's like the whole plot. So it does, it evens out in my head of where I think I saw the original clip from. Okay, I have one more question about your celibacy, and then I'm going to conclude our episode with answering your question that you had for me, because I like to ask my guests what they would like to learn in every episode. So my last question for you is, do you know of any men in your circle who are also celibate, or are you more so alone, or not even in your circle, but just in general? Do you know of any men who are also on a celibacy journey? Because I know a lot of women that are on celibacy journeys right now.
That's a great question. I'm gonna be honest with you, like nobody comes to mind at all. But I also don't think we necessarily have the space to talk about it. And it's not that like my male friends don't feel comfortable talking to me, but I think like especially when it comes like to male friendships, it's like certain things aren't talked about unless it comes out. And unless somebody like actively creates a space for it. But I don't think I'm necessarily like talk to anybody in my immediate circle who are like, yeah. But granted, a lot of my like closest friends are married with kids. You know what I mean? And the ones that are younger, or the ones that I do have that are single, are a lot younger, or they're in relationships, right? So I think the younger men that I know, they're not necessarily on a celibacy journey, because it's like, oh, we trying to figure out what's up. You know what I mean? And then you do have some who are a little bit more on the reserved, introverted, some insecure side. So it's not that they want to be celibate, but it's just by design they're celibate right now. But I think as far as it goes, the only other people that I know that are on like a celibacy journey are like the women that I know.
Okay.
For the most part, it's really just me. And it's funny. I recently on that podcast that was like 3 hours that you were talking about, the talk show on Instagram, when I was telling people that I was celibate, everybody was like, "Whoa, no way!" And granted, in college, I didn't lose my virginity until my junior year. But when I got to college, everybody had this assumption, and even when I lost my virginity, and I'm not gonna say like I was going wild. I don't feel like I was going wild, but most of my interactions were really like a one-time thing, and then that was it. So I never even had the space to like build and have sex multiple times with a partner. The most I've ever had sex with somebody is twice. One partner twice. You know what I mean? Never more than that. So even in those interactions, you don't really get a gauge and understand somebody's body and what they like and what they don't like and what's comfortable and what's not comfortable if you only having sex twice, right? So I say all this to say, like, even in college though, I've always had this persona because I always hang out with a lot of women. I'm always um just a friendly person. I talk to anybody in the room, like, oh, he's a whore. He has to be a whore. Like he's with all these women. He has to be sleeping with them. And I think that is something that like always has followed my life. So I say all that to say, like when I was on this podcast or on my talk show, and I was telling people like, yeah, like I've been celibate since 2017. It is what it is. People's reactions, oh, like, whoa, hold on, wait, like I don't know how you do that. That's crazy. Like, what is that? I mentioned this because there was this girl, one of my homegirls, and we talk about relationships, we talk about life, we talk about creative stuff. We never talk about sex. She reached out and she sent me this long voice memo, and she was essentially just like, "Thank you for speaking on it and like really being honest and open because I'm similar age. I've never lost my virginity, and I feel so ashamed because everything is so overly sexualized that I feel like I'm missing out. But to know that there's also somebody out there that like is not constantly sleeping with somebody or laying with somebody or doing whatever, it makes me feel better. And I had mentees, and this was the bigger one. I had, and not to say hers wasn't big, that was huge.
Yeah.
But I also had younger men who are in college, freshmen, sophomore, junior. And if you know me, I'm the type of mentor where it's like I am completely authentic and honest about my experiences. Like me lying to your face about what I go through is a disservice to you because I want you to see a perspective of what it looks like. So they're always when they see me and they call me Unc on campus, they'll be like, Unc, you know what I mean? Like, Unc, I know you got them all, and we see the people you post, and yada yada yada. But when I have conversations, I'm like, yeah, I've been celibate. Like I have not had sex since such and such. And I bring up these fears and I bring up these insecurities and these requirements. It's almost crazy to see how much some of them like ease their body just tenses and eases a little bit because these are things that a lot of us are struggling with. A lot of men struggle with or think about, or there's everything's so hyper focused on sex that we forget that like, yo, it is okay to not have it. Granted, when you have it, is it great? Absolutely. I'm not gonna take like every time I had it out, would be like, oh my goodness, what in the world? But if you're not having it, it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't mean like you're any lesser or greater. And to add, I think like again, when we talk about like raising the bar, or at least showing a different perspective, that's something that I've learned to appreciate in my celibacy journey is being able to like stand on business when I feel as if like somebody is not necessarily deserving, not deserving, I don't feel like the word, but who I'm not comfortable with sharing that space with, standing on that, and then being able to have conversations where I stand on that too. And other people are coming to me and like, yo, you help me find peace in my own celibacy. Like to me, that is the beauty of it all. Because I think, yes, we live in a very hypersexualized culture, but not everybody's having sex. And it's not what it's like. It's not what everybody makes it. Even the people who are having sex. I remember I watched Sexy Red's Horrible Decision podcast. She was on that. And I remember like listening to Sexy Red's music and thinking like, oh, I know Sexy Red is like the freak of all freaks. She probably
Yeah.
does all these type of things. And I'm listening to her on the podcast, and she is like real vanilla when it comes to
Yes.
everything. You know, and vanilla, for people who don't know, is like the most basic level. And it's like, yo, even the ways in which people talk about it, they talk about it like they do this and they do that. But even then, it's sometimes like the most basic level. So it's like, what is the standard that we're measuring these sexual experiences on? And I feel as if I'm not missing out. Like there was a point where I was like, yeah, I'm missing out. And some days I do be like, damn, I'm lonely. My number one thing is physical touch. Hell yeah, I just want to be laid up with somebody. But I know I'm not missing out. And I think once I kind of got to that piece, and now I see a greater value in myself, it's like, yeah, again, what's for me is not gonna miss me. When she comes, and she gonna come, because she gonna come first. All
Yes.
of us be real. But when she comes to me, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? Like we gonna have a good old time, and she getting so much pent up energy.
Yeah.
That it's gonna be a good time.
I felt that. I felt that deeply. I really believe that you are a man of your word in that, in all aspects, but definitely in that aspect as well. So I wanted to also just, I guess I'll conclude with this last question. I'll answer the question that you had for me earlier, and then I'll conclude with the last question that I have. I know I said that was the last one, but I lied. Okay, so
Okay, for sure.
You had asked me, what can a man do to make a woman feel the most safe and secure in her body during sex? And normally I would like read an article about this or something with some like scientific facts, but I really just wanted to like speak from my notes and things that I feel like I would need, and then hopefully other women can relate. But if anybody has anything to add, you can email theloveatiyaexperience@gmail.com to help answer Nigel's question of what can a man do to make a woman feel the most safe and secure in her body during sex. So number one, I have more intimate conversations before sex. And if you don't know what kind of questions to ask, there are certain like card games that they have that are like literally specifically made for like intimacy or to get to know your partner. So you can try those card games to get to know each other. Then there are also like just online articles. I think in one of my episodes, I posted like 70 questions that you should ask like your partner, 70 questions about sex. Just to help y'all get to know each other. But it can be about anything. On Pinterest, they also have this like questionnaire sheet about dreams and goals and manifestations and stuff. So anything to just kind of get to learn more about them intimately, just on a deeper level. Compliment her. Subtly show appreciation for her body, your favorite parts of her body, and fall in love with the parts of her body that she finds it hard to fall in love with. So I'm trying to think like, back in the day, I used to be really insecure about my ass, right? I wanted it to be so much bigger. And my ex used to say, yo, like, y'all should see her when she's not wearing jeans. Like, that shit is, like, fat. And I'd be like, even though it was delusion and it wasn't really fat, it's okay because it made me, like, love my ass a little bit more. So, yeah, if you can compliment her. And like I said, like, subtly show affection as well. Or just, like, you're so pretty. Or random things, like, my ex-lesbian lover told me that she loved my eyelashes and that they were so beautiful. And ever since, like, I found such beauty in my eyelashes, and I don't think I had really peeped them before. I think my mom has probably complimented me on them before, but otherwise, so it really helped me appreciate that. And then listen. Definitely listening to her past experiences, to what she likes, what she needs, and ask questions. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions when listening, because one, it just shows that you're actively listening, and two, if you need clarity, like sometimes shit just ain't clear, and that's okay. But then also sometimes just giving her that space just to talk, and then you can ask your questions later. Show her you care. Find out what makes her feel cared for, because care doesn't look the same to everybody. So especially when we talk about like love languages, I feel like we always say like, oh, what's your love language? What's my love language? But people have a love language that they give and a love language that they prefer to receive. So I think that's something that can be just extra thought of. Aftercare and before care are super important. So before care, in my opinion, would be like soft caresses, non-sensate touch, which is like when you touch your partner, somebody's a toucher, somebody's the receiver. And if you're the toucher, you just try to feel to see if they get goosebumps. Like if you feel like the fine hairs on them, you know, how does their skin feel? Like, are they hot? Are they cold? Like really just getting in touch with that, that intimate part of connecting with them. Breath work is also really good for that, with connecting with each other. You can also like lick parts of your partner's bodies and blow on them and like just heighten your senses. But I think that that can definitely help make somebody feel more safe when they're more connected to their body. I think that like, I guess before care is kind of like foreplay, but not really, in my opinion. Like it's like the foreplay before the foreplay. I don't know. And like massages, but not rushed. Like I've gotten massages from guys before and they've been so fucking rushed. Like, why did I just spend 30 minutes on your back and you gave me a 5-minute massage and then ended it with chopping my back? Like, don't chop backs. Like I hate people chop my back. Like that's not relaxing. So the last 3 are use safe words. So if something doesn't feel good to her, but she might not feel comfortable enough to say that. Although I would hope that she would feel comfortable enough to be able to just speak up when something feels uncomfortable. Sometimes you don't always have the words. So use a safe word like pianos or something that she probably wouldn't say during that instance. And I think that that's really helpful. Because you might not know like what you're like. For me, choking is a trigger. And I usually make that be pretty known, like when it comes to sex.
Yeah.
I've had people disregard that and that's fucked me up. But sometimes people like I might not tell them. So if I could just say like, I don't actually feel like explaining this right now, but pianos, like let's try something else, you know, because you don't want to like usually as the person who has the trigger, you don't want to quote unquote ruin the moment, but you do want to respect your own moment and not
Yeah,
ruin
for sure.
yourself by going along. Yeah. But also talk about your triggers. Like if she's comfortable talking about it, and then if she's comfortable about sharing the why, that's beautiful. If not, you don't have to press it. But usually it's just helpful just to get more perspective on what her triggers are. But if she shares the why, it could just be a little bit more triggering for her. So keep that in mind. But it also, once again, shows that you care. And last but not least, show deep care constantly. As you can see, that's been the theme of this is care, 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 bear, care about her, care the fuck about her. So yeah, those are my tips. I hope that those were helpful for you.
No, for sure. I think like the biggest takeaway, and it's like I feel like this is the takeaway with any person with love, but like especially when it comes to women, Black women specifically, it's just consideration. It's like how much do you really consider this person? And I think consideration embodies all of that, like the listening, the gentleness, the safety, the all of that. And yeah, no, you gave me some little like insider tips. So like, yeah, I'm trying to, yo, listen, yo, man, listen, yo, if my person is listening right now, I just want you to know, like, you are getting an absolute lover and romantic in the fullest way. And I promise you, oh man, yeah, it's gonna be work, but we gonna work together. I'm a movement by myself, but we are a force together, baby girl. I just want you to know. Mm.
Yes, bring it into existence, and so it shall motherfucking be. I want you to plug all of the amazing things that you have going on for yourself from your book. Feel free to tell us what your book is about, what inspired it. Tell us what you have going on, what you have planned, like everything that we need to know about Nigel Marcellus.
Yeah, first 2 things. I feel like this podcast has been like incredible, and I want to thank you so much again for this opportunity. Like what you do, how you do it, who you are, the light that you are, the light that you give to this world, it is unmatched. It's undeniable. It cannot be copied. I am so thankful for you and thank you for this opportunity. Um, Also, the 2 things I want people to take away from with this, earlier when we were talking about vulnerability, especially being a man, I want you to understand that like you being vulnerable doesn't take away from your confidence. And I think sometimes like I've struggled with being vulnerable and then feeling like, oh man, because I express my insecurity or I express something to somebody, that means they're gonna see me as less confident. You could still be confident and vulnerable. I can't. It goes with that saying of like, um, what it fear is not, or what is it? Courage isn't. What's that saying? It's like courage isn't doing the fear or feeling fear. It's courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyways.
Yes.
That is vulnerability. So like vulnerability is like you're feeling it and you're expressing it, but you're still rising to the occasion and showing up. And I think that's one thing I've always struggled with. Is like, oh man, because I just expressed my heart, now I'm not as confident. Like now I'm still very confident. I'm even confident in my ability to express it to you. But don't sleep. I'm still a confident man at the end of the day. And then number 2, the one thing I feel like I've said multiple times is like life is hard, love is hard, this understanding is hard. But the one thing that everybody needs to understand is like you choose your heart.
Mm.
And what's harder, the choice of that hard path, or the choice of not taking that hard path and then always thinking about what happens if you chose that, right? So life is always going to be hard, but at the end of the day, we choose our heart, and it's up to you. And usually, when we try to make things easier, we make things a lot more difficult. So, like, be very mindful of how you choose your heart. With that being said, I feel like I said everything I needed to on my chest. Last thing, always, baby girl, if you listen to this, just know, like, I am him. You already know I am single. I might be going on this dating fast regardless, but who knows? Life is possible. I'm still single. My DMs is open. I'm always taking applications. All right, cool. Now, as far as like who I am, again, y'all, thank you so much. Nigel Marcellus. Y'all can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, really anything at Nigel Marcellus. I'm gonna be a talk show host one day, one of the biggest to ever do it. And my goal is to help people have healthier conversations with themselves. Hopefully, this gave you a glimpse of kind of like my work and what I do. And I'm still figuring out how I'm gonna get there, but I know I'm gonna do it. As far as where you can follow me on social media. If you have kids or you don't have kids, I have a children's book. It's called The Endless Possibilities with Nora and Vincent. It's really to help people, children specifically, but people in general, just not limit themselves and recognize like the possibilities are endless as long as you believe in yourself, and that the ability to believe can open up so many doors for you. So my children's book's out. Definitely cop it. If you go on my page right now, you're gonna be flooded with me just going to different schools, talking to different kids. And I love it. Um, but I also do a lot of like street interviews and just trying to create more space for people to have conversations that might be hard, but are just so necessary for us to grow and evolve. So the last thing I'll say is like I'm constantly doing a lot of different stuff, but no matter what I'm doing, I just want you to know, listening to this, specifically, it's 11:11 right now, which is crazy. My wish for everybody is to really internalize your worthiness and understand that you are enough. You're worthy. You're deserving of love. You're deserving of happiness. You are such a star. We need you in this world. Even if you're going through it and you're having a difficult day, just understand everything will be okay. Feel your feelings, process them, heal, but understand that you are so perfectly and uniquely designed to be on this earth. Your presence is a blessing. I'm so thankful that y'all took the opportunity to listen to me and love it to you. I'm beyond thankful, and I have so much love for you for giving me this opportunity to be here. So thank you so much.
Thank you so, so much, Nigel. My heart is so full. I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. Also, you don't have to have kids to buy the book. I'm an avid children's book reader, so that's one. I'm ordering one for my baby cousins. Well, not one. I'm ordering books for my baby cousins. I have a nephew. Like y'all got nieces and nephews, so feel free to get creative. Y'all got friends who are having babies. My friends are popping out babies left and right. So they all gonna be reading Nigel's book, okay? And also, Nigel is featured on Project Pleasure, which is something that's being released next year. I don't know when this is coming out, so I don't know if it's gonna be like that year, 2024, whatever. So yes, Project Pleasure. Nigel gives some great takes. And you're just such a pleasure to work with. You're such a joy. Like I literally could have gone on for another 15 hours. I was like, Atiya, you gotta chill. So it's okay. Just know that we'll be having a lot more of these conversations. And I just thank you so, so much for, again, just being your beautiful self, for seeing me, for helping me see myself, for all that you've done, for motivating me, for being so transparent with your journey. You show the highs, the lows, the middle ground. You show everything, and it's just very humanizing of you. So just thank you for all that you do. Please know that I'm so proud of you. And if you ever need a reminder of how amazing you are, how important you are, how talented you are, how intelligent you are, how perspicacious you are, which is the word that my dad taught me in hospital, then like send me a piano. No, okay, we're not gonna use piano because that was like for triggers. Send me an emoji of a saxophone, and I will literally let your shit like pouring the fuck into you. So send me the sax.
I appreciate you.
Of course, I appreciate you so much. Thank you again for being my very first Zoom guest. Thank you all for listening. Please, again, I'm going to link all of Nigel's socials and link to buy the book and everything in the description below. There's probably going to be a two-parter, so just stay tuned for part 1, part 2. But yes, thank you so much. I love it. I'm giving you a virtual hug.
Peace.
Oh yeah, we have to do our sign out. So we give a hug, and then I say, "Be kind to animals, be kind to yourself, and that's those bitches."
And peace and love, everybody. That's always my sign up.